Ողջույն հայրենակիցներ, Հայաստանում ծավալվող իրադարձությունների մասին, ինչպես նաև Սփյուռքի արձագանքների մասին այսօր զրուցելու եմ Քեն Խաչիկյանի հետ, ով հիմա ուղիղ կապի մեջ է Չիկագոյից։ Ողջույն պարոն Խաչիկյան. Hello and thank you for joining us, Mr. Hachikian. And ուզում եմ տեղեկացնել, որ պարոն Խաչիկյանը ամերիկահայ գործարար է, հայ դատի գրասենյակի երկար տարիների ուրեմն նախկին ղեկավարն է եղել եւ այժմ ղեկավարում է Մարդու իրավունքների եւ արդարադատության հայկական իրավական կենտրոնի տնօրենի պաշտոնն է զբաղեցնում, բավականին ակտիվ է եւ քաջատեղյակ է հայկական հարցերից. Mr. Hachikian, thank you for joining us. I want to start with I'm sure you follow the events that have been going in Armenia, and I'd like to ask you what is your take on it?
Well, clearly this is a movement, a very popular movement being led by the clergy, and I applaud their efforts. The current administration in Armenia should be called to account, and I think the clergy is leading this movement, which is obviously supported by the people, and the current administration needs to be listening.
Mr. Hachikian, you had been head of ANCA long years, and you work with the American government, with Armenian government. I'd like to ask you, how would you describe American government's actions for last a few years? There is a lot of disappointment from Armenian people in America in general, from Armenians, from American government, because they haven't done enough, for example, to prevent the genocide in Artsakh. And now, when I see like what's going on in Armenia, and the police is using forces, whatever, and nothing, no reaction, nothing. The main time we will see like what's going on in Tbilisi, Georgia, and American human rights activist or the American government is announcing like, oh, the police have to keep like not pushing people, whatever. Do you feel the same way? Like this American government, existing government, Biden administration, didn't meet the expectations we had?
I think that the Biden administration's policies with respect to Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Turkey have been nothing short of shameful. Disappointment is an understatement. That the Biden administration has been complicit in the genocide conducted by Azerbaijan, supported by Turkey, on the Armenians of Artsakh. They're allowing now Azerbaijan to demand sovereign territory from Armenia. They've continued to supply military weaponry to the tune of 800 plus million over the past 6-7 years to Azerbaijan. I mean, this administration is absolutely complicit in genocide, and their behavior is nothing short of shameful. And every single senior member of the administration, from President Biden to Secretary of State Blinken to the ambassadors to Armenia, the ambassador to Azerbaijan, who recently visited Artsakh and made no mention of the genocide that Azerbaijan conducted, of the blockade. I mean, the United States was shamefully silent during the entire blockade of Azerbaijan, provided negligible, if any, humanitarian aid only after the fact. So it's worse than disappointing. I mean, they are actively complicit in a crime.
Do you think American government is supporting also Nikol Pashinyan's regime right now in Armenia?
They have been, clearly. You know, they have been pushing Pashinyan for a policy of appeasement. How can you have an appeasement when a gun is being held to your head? I mean, the United States should be demanding of Azerbaijan that they stand down, that they stop their demands for territory from Armenia, that they withdraw from Artsakh, that they allow the Armenians who lived there for over 3,000 years to return to their native lands. And again, the Biden administration is pushing Pashinyan. That's no excuse for Pashinyan to pursue these policies. But yes, I believe the Biden administration is supporting Pashinyan. Very, very disappointing.
Mr. Hachikian, as a head of ANCA, before you worked, I'm sure like you had some relationship with Armenian government too. Right now, what's going on? We are talking with different lobbyist groups, Armenian lobbyist organizations. It seems that they are not on the same page. Like the people in Armenia, I mean government people, representative of the government, they are asking American government one thing, the diaspora is asking another thing, and there is no match. Like their goals are different. How was that relationship during that time when you were head of ANCA? Did you had like did you work with Armenian government? Did you discuss the issues, whatever the policies?
Sure.
I want to
I
do
mean,
like some
we,
compare the times like back
yes.
then and now.
Of course, the Armenian National Committee of America represents the desires, the perspective, the wishes of Armenian Americans and lobbies with the United States government to advance those interests. At the same time, we would speak with representatives of the government of Armenia, understand their concerns, and try to be sure that the diasporan concerns and the concerns of the government were consistent. And to the extent that they weren't, we would have dialogue. Today, the government of Armenia has no interest in the concerns of the diaspora. They simply want to follow a policy of appeasement, and there's no dialogue between the diaspora and the Armenian government, other than their one-sided entreaties that this is how things are going and we want your support, which clearly isn't the case. I don't know of a single diasporan organization anywhere in the world, not just the United States, that supports the giving up of the Tavush villages. I don't know of a single diasporan organization.
Not only that, but genocide, the other issues, Artsakh. I know right now,
Absolutely.
yeah, you are head of ALC, which is Armenian Legal Center, and as
Yes.
far as I know, you have like some agendas, like some directions you're working with. I would like you to talk about some of the issues you're working and like continuing this conversation. I know you are working towards like POWs and also
Yes.
political prisoners in Baku, which is not, in my opinion, which is not a priority for Armenian government. Is that how you feel too?
It has not been a priority for the Armenian government. The Armenian Legal Center, along with our partner, the Center for International and Comparative Law, a human rights law firm in Yerevan, led by Siranush Sahakian and her colleagues, we have filed over 120 cases for POWs before the European Court for Human Rights. The court has accepted virtually all of those cases. And as a result of our efforts and the result in efforts of other NGOs, over 65 POWs have been released over the past several years. Azerbaijan has acknowledged that a number, in addition, have died in captivity. They've put others on trial, but there are over 50, perhaps as many as 100 who are unaccounted for. And the Armenian government has done next to nothing about all of this. The Armenian government's behavior in this regard is nothing short of disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful. So the POWs is one area that we have been very, very active over the past several years. We've also been active with the Human Rights Council of the United Nations.
Right.
Yes, and every country is reviewed for their human rights policies, and we submitted, in conjunction with Armenian national committees around the world, a variety of statements, documents with respect to Azerbaijan's abysmal, shameful, criminal human rights policies. And the Human Rights Council adopted many of our statements and policies, calling upon Azerbaijan to change their reprehensible behavior. The most recent activity that the legal center has been involved with is something called Magnitsky Act sanctions. And again, with our partner law firm, the Center for International Comparative Law, led by Hachikian, 7 different cases have been filed with the United States State Department, the United States Department of Treasury, calling for sanctions on 44 senior government and military Azeri officials for violations of international law, criminal acts, primarily emanating from the 44-day war in 2020, but also subsequent activities of attacking civilians, civilians living in Armenia. Again, the acts of the Azeri officials are criminal. Many of these they publicized on social media, they posted. The evidence is both compelling and extensive. And we expect the United States State Department and Treasury Department, upon review of these well-documented cases, to issue sanctions against these 44 individuals.
Do you believe it's going to happen soon?
I hope so. I hope so. I don't know. Certainly on the merits, on the basis of the actions of these 44 individuals, sanctions should absolutely be put in place. I don't know if the Biden administration will exert political pressure on the State Department and Treasury Department not to issue these sanctions. I certainly hope that they don't. I would not be shocked if they did. We'd be extremely disappointed, and obviously we'll be very critical. We will be seeking sanctions around the world in other countries as well, not just in the United States. Following every country has most Western countries have similar sanction laws as exist in the United States, and similar submissions will occur throughout the world.
Now is election year for America, and that's the reason we are hoping that we can push, like Armenians can push their agenda. But do you think we're doing enough to pressure the government to take the steps we need for Armenia?
Well, certainly our advocacy groups, such as the ANCA and our regional ANCs on the East Coast and West Coast, and all of our local ANCs, are very actively pushing our agendas with our elected representatives. The major party candidates in, the Democrats with President Biden and the Republicans with former President Trump have not shown any strong support for our issues. We will continue to push them. They should not assume that Armenians will vote for them simply because they're Democrats or Republicans. Some of the independent candidates, in particular, Robert Kennedy, has shown some strong interest, and I know Armenians will be taking a close look at him.
As a businessman who has Harvard Law School, you are in the business field as much as in the political field. Who can lead America to the point that is not only good for American people, but also for the world? Because this year, like, our people are trying to understand who to vote. What is your opinion on this? Who should we vote?
Well, I can't tell anybody whom to vote for, but I can say that I see no leadership coming from President Biden, or for that matter, former President Trump. Both, and this is a personal view, I should emphasize, both for issues of national importance to the United States. But, as Armenians, I don't see either of them as being especially supportive of our issues. We have to look to our elected officials in Congress, in the House of Representatives, in the Senate, in our state legislators, our state governors, to get the support for our issues, and in turn for particularly for the national representatives and congressmen and women and senators to push the administration to follow policies that are much more consistent with our values as Americans, much more consistent with human rights values, and which translate into calling Azerbaijan for the perpetrator of genocide that they are, for the aggressor that they are, for their ongoing violation of international law, which they're doing, call upon them to release the POWs, sanction their senior officials, stop providing them military aid. All of these are issues that I would hope any administration, whether it be Democratic, Republican, or an independent, would support.
And finally, Mr. Hachikian, going back to Armenia, what's going on right now, all the diaspora is watching what's going on in there. They're hoping some changes are gonna be happening there. But the meantime, the people in Armenia is watching this diaspora. And I would like you to ask, what would be your message to Armenians fighting there for the homeland, and also your message to our diaspora?
Well, I would say I would want our fellow countrymen in Armenia to know, especially those who are active in the Tavush movement, that we, as whether it be the Armenian National Committee of America, whether it be the Legal Center, frankly, I think every diasporan organization is supportive of their desire for this administration to stop its policy of appeasement, to stop its policy of giving Azerbaijan whatever that they demand, and of standing up for the rights of Armenians. And I would tell our diasporan organizations that we need to be more vocal. We need to convey to our countrymen in Armenia that we have their backs, that we're supportive of them, and that we'll do anything and everything that we can to have our local governments, wherever we live, whether it be the United States, Canada, France, Argentina, Australia, wherever we live, Middle East, Lebanon, Syria, to have our local governments support these same calls for condemning the genocidal acts of Azerbaijan, sanctioning senior government officials, military officials, and calling upon Azerbaijan to release the POWs, whom they are illegally detaining, as well as the civilians whom they're detaining.
Political prisoners too.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hachikian, for joining us, and hopefully we'll talk soon about also business issues, business relationships, and the business perspectives between America and Armenia. I know you have a lot of thoughts on that too.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Սիրելի հայրենակիցներ, հիշեցնեմ, որ իմ զրուցակիցն էր պարոն Կեն Խաչիկյանը, ով միացել էր մեզ Չիկագոյից, Ամերիկայի գործարար, Հայդատի գրասենյակի նախկին տնօրեն եւ այսօր նա ղեկավարում է Մարդու իրավունքների եւ արդարադատության հայկական իրավական կենտրոնը։ Այսքանը, շնորհակալություն ուշադրության համար, կհանդիպենք առայժմ։